Hi everyone, I'm Neama Rahmani, former federal prosecutor, 20-year lawyer, and I'm talking about the Hunter Biden plea agreement and why it fell apart. So there's two parts of the deal. The first is the diversion agreement and the actual plea agreement. So let's start with diversion. Diversion is not something you typically see in federal court. You do see it in state cases. And what it does is it essentially puts the case on hold, and if the defendant complies with the terms of the diversion agreement, they dismiss the charges. So again, something that typically happens in state court, but rarely, if ever, seen in federal court. And that's why so many people, including Republicans, are saying that Hunter Biden got an amazing deal, a sweetheart deal, one he shouldn't have. The charges in the diversion deal relate to addict in possession of a firearm. So basically, if you're a drug user, you can't have a firearm. And in this case, Hunter Biden is an admitted drug user. So the terms of the agreement say that if Hunter Biden doesn't use drugs and otherwise complies with the laws, they're not going to charge him with addict in possession. That is an agreement between the defense and the prosecution. Because no charges are filed, it's not something that the court gets involved with. And that's the issue in this case. Biden's lawyers got greedy. They didn't trust the Department of Justice to say whether Biden complied with the terms of the agreement. So they asked the judge in the criminal case, which relates to the tax charges, to determine whether Biden complied with the terms of the deal. And she said, no, I can't do that. That's a separation of powers issue. The judiciary, an Article 3 judge, can't get involved in an agreement between the defendant and the executive branch. So that's that part of the deal. Now, to be fair, addict in possession isn't usually charged by itself. It's usually charged in connection with some other crimes, and it's a type of statute that's being litigated. There's some recent appellate decisions that say, using marijuana, for instance, isn't grounds for not being able to have a firearm. Of course, Hunter Biden isn't alleged to have used just marijuana, but there was some potential room for litigation in the case. Now let's move to the actual plea agreement, what Hunter Biden agreed to. And those are tax charges. He didn't file taxes for a couple of years and is alleged to owe a lot of money in taxes, more than $1 million. So in this particular case, the Department of Justice gave him an also amazing deal and said, if you plead to 2 misdemeanor counts of not filing tax returns, we're going to recommend probation, no time. Again, that's something that you rarely see in federal court. You don't get no time offers, and you don't get misdemeanor offers. There's not a whole lot of misdemeanors in federal court. The problem with the plea deal and why it fell apart is as soon as it was announced, the defense came out and said publicly, this resolves all federal investigations into Hunter Biden, including his business dealings with foreign countries. This has been a source of a lot of concern by Republicans and even Americans in general. So, at the plea agreement, even though this wasn't written in the plea agreement itself, the judge asked, hey, does this resolve everything into Hunter Biden? And the Department of Justice said, no, it just resolves the tax counts, what's listed in the plea agreement. And the defense said, no, it resolves everything. Again, the defense got greedy. So at the plea agreement, there was a discussion, there was no meeting of the minds, there was no agreement. So the defense says, we're going to rip up the deal. And the DOJ said, fine, if that's how you want it, because the Department of Justice knew that this was a great deal for the defense. So now that this happened, we're going to talk about the attorney who is in charge of this prosecution, and his name is David Weiss. Now, he's the U.S. attorney in the District of Delaware, and he was appointed by former President Trump. But because he was already investigating Hunter Biden, when Joe Biden took office, he didn't fire him. Normally when a new president comes in, they fire all the U.S. attorneys that were appointed by presidents from another party. But Joe Biden said, you know what, I'm going to keep David Weiss in place because he's investigating my son. Now, of course, Joe Biden can pardon his son, but he's publicly said he's not going to do so. So, David Weiss, Republicans are upset that he gave this great deal to Hunter Biden. But now that the deal fell apart, Attorney General Merrick Garland appointed him special counsel. So obviously we know one special counsel who's working right now, that's Jack Smith. He's investigating Donald Trump and prosecuting him. A special counsel is supposed to be independent from the day-to-day operations of the Department of Justice. They still have to report to the Attorney General. But one big difference is they have jurisdiction anywhere in the United States. So, for instance, now David Weiss can prosecute cases in D.C. or in Los Angeles, where I live, whereas previously his prosecution was limited to the District of Delaware. So now that he has special counsel status, and now that the deal has fallen apart, David Weiss is potentially free to bring additional, more serious charges against Hunter Biden. So I think his lawyers made a mistake. They should have taken the deal, even though it didn't resolve anything, because guess what? If Donald Trump or if another Republican gains control of the White House in 2024, we could see a very, very different prosecution of Hunter Biden, one that may involve jail time. And we'll see if Joe Biden sticks with his promise, and if he loses the general election, decides to pardon his son on the way out. Thanks for watching, everyone. We're going to be tracking this case very closely. Make sure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications.